Okay, well, welcome everyone to what we call What's New in the Alexa Skills Kit. This is the November edition. And the idea behind these kind of streams that we do is there's a whole lot that happens in a matter of a few weeks in the world at Alexa. And if you've been building skills or you've been doing some device making or smart home building with Alexa, you know what I'm talking about. It can be a bit overwhelming to keep track of what exactly has gone on, what is new, what are the new features that you can play around with. And the idea behind this kind of stream that we do once a month is to make sure that you are aware of all the new stuff that has come out and how you can use some of these new things to build new capabilities, new Alexa skills, and improve the engagement and improve the experience for the customers. Okay, so my name is Amit Jodhwani. I am Alexa Evangelist. Like I said, I'm based out of New York. You can follow me on Twitter at Amit. And of course, please follow us on Alexa Dev's channel. But you probably already do that, right? But if you don't, please do that. With that, let's. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a few all of the new things that have been that we've launched, and for some of those, I have some sample code that I'm going to share. And if we have time, we can even build and play around with some of these new features. Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is the new capabilities for Spanish skills in the US. So you can now build Spanish skills in the US and you can publish it on the store, on the US store. But what's more, you can also start monetizing your skills. So you can use in-skill purchasing and include those in your skills, and your customers can actually buy those special packages for subscriptions or one-time purchases or even consumables. There's also the eligibility for Alexa Developer Rewards. So if you're not familiar with those, if your skill is doing really well and it is keeping the engagement high, you are eligible for Alexa Developer Rewards. So that's another way that you can actually start making money by building Spanish skills and making it available in the US store. There are currently 8 eligible skills or skill categories, from education reference to food and drinks, and you can learn more about all of these different categories if you just go to alexa.design/US/ISP. Okay, I'm gonna keep looking on my left side, or maybe that's your right side, just so I can keep track of any questions that I can answer while I'm here. I'm gonna keep going and come back to this. I think Joe and Mark are on for answering, and if there's any question that goes unanswered, and maybe I can help at the end of the stream. But anyway, so number one is that you can start building Spanish skills and making it available in the US store, and you can include ISP, which is in-skill purchasing, and you can also you're also eligible for the Alexa Developer Rewards once your skill gets to that category, that level of engagement with the skills. Okay, number 2 is you can build premium experiences and make them available for kids skills. So we launched the kids skills, this I think was a couple months back, but new capability is that you can include ISP in skill purchasing for kids skills in the US store as well. And the way this works is that on the Alexa app, so the parents will actually go on the Alexa app and they can enable or disable voice purchasing for the kids skills. And they can do per, I think it's for you enable it for the entire account, and then the onus is on you as skill developer, where you can actually check if the kid skill has been enabled or kids skills voice purchasing has been enabled. And at that point, you want to make sure that you check that and then deliver that kind of experience. Now, there are a few things that some APIs and tools that you can actually use. So the first one is the voice purchasing part. And as you can see, I have a little bit of code here. Hopefully you can see this okay. And what you want to do is the voice purchasing is provided to you in the skill request that's sent off to your skill. So you can actually navigate in the JSON request that's sent to your skill, and you can check if the parents have enabled, or the owner of the account has enabled kid skill purchasing or not. And if they have, then you can deliver that kind of experience. So as you can see, I'm calling the monetization service here. And then in the next one, on line number 4, I am checking, I'm calling the get voice purchasing setting. And then depending on that, I can deliver that kind of experience to the customer. Just like in a regular in-skill purchasing skill, you would want to make sure that you're calling the locale, and you want to make sure, so in line number 3, I'm calling locale. And based on the locale and based on the skill products that are available for that skill, remember, because you can have your skill available in different locales, and you can have different products available in different locales. So you want to make sure that you're figuring out the locale the request is coming from, and then call your monetization service API. And then depending on what skill, what products are available, you can make those available to the customer. But again, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're checking if voice purchasing is enabled or not, and then delivering the experience accordingly. Great. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to alexa.design, Kids Skills US. Joe can probably start pasting that link into the chat window as well, just so you guys have all of these links. Okay, so that was number 2. You can start building ISP for Kids Skills, and this is currently available in the US store. All right, number 3, and this is one of my favorite ones. You can start personalizing the Alexa experience with voice profiles. Now, voice profiles is something that on the customer side, the customer can go into the Alexa app and they can start training Alexa with their voice, and Alexa can identify them. So if me and my wife can actually set those profiles up, and then if I go to the Echo or go to the Alexa device and I say, who am I? It's going to respond back with that name. So I have this Echo show right here, and I'm going to pray to the demo gods. This is going to work. And what I'm going to say is, I will just say, Alexa, who am I? And hopefully, I've already done the voice training on the Alexa app, so she should come back and tell me, who am I? Alexa, who am I?
I'm talking to Amit.
So
this is Amit's account.
There we go. So she gave me 2 bits of information. One is that this is Amit speaking, and then this is also Amit's account. So there's a user ID, which is the owner of the account. And then there is the person ID, which is the person who was actually speaking. So now you can actually use these 2 bits of information and include those in your skills. And imagine that you know who the person is speaking to. You can start catering to those preferences and those specific settings and like and dislikes of your specific customer in that household. Up until now, the customers would have to switch back and forth between the household profiles. But with skills, having that capability now, they don't need to do that. And as a skill developer, you can start tapping into that as well. So the way this works on the developer side is that the first thing you want to do is you want to go into your developer console and enable skill personalization. So what I'm going to do is I will actually jump over to the developer console and see if we can actually do this live. So I am in my developer console, and what I've done is actually, let me go back and click on the GitHub code that we have. So I'm going to click on Alexa design /feature demos. And if you don't have this link, I would highly recommend you bookmark this link. All of the new things that we release, we have samples available for quite a few of them. And that's where we store them. So this is going to point me to the GitHub page, and that is inside our Alexa cookbook on GitHub. And the one I want is, I'm going to go into skill demo personalization. And then as you can see, there's a Lambda and there's models as well. Now, I've already copied the Lambda code for Node.js. So I already have this code. And what I did is I went into my developer console and I pasted that into my code window. So again, I'm using Alexa hosted. This will work just as well if you're using Lambda function or any other node-based backend. What I'm going to do is paste this here, and then I've also updated the package.json. It includes the ASKSD core, the model, and this also you can get from the GitHub page. So let me go back, and this is the package.json. And then the other thing we're going to do is we will also update the model. So again, I've already done this, but you would copy this and bring it into your build part and go into the JSON editor and paste that here. So it's a very simple skill. It has some of the built-in intents: cancel, help, stop, and it has an intent called my personalization intent. And let's go there and see. So it has a few examples of, do you know my name, check personalization configuration, and who am I? And that's it, right? So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go into the test window. I'm going to do this without actually talking to it. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to show you the experience you get when it does not recognize a person. So I'm going to say open skill personalization demo. I don't know if the audio is going to work the way I want it to. Anyway, she came back and she said, "Hi, stranger." I'm trying to mute my sound coming out of my computer so you don't get the echo. But anyway, she came back and she said, "Hi, stranger." Now, when she's able to detect the person, she should come back and say the name of that person. So let's try this on my Echo device now. I'm going to say open skill personalization demo. Alexa, open skill personalization demo.
Hi, Amit.
So she came back and this time she said, "Hi, Amit." And the reason she's doing that is because our code is obviously doing some magic behind it. So let's look at the code. I'm going to go into my index.js, and this is my launch request handler. So what we are doing is I'm checking if the request was launch request and if the intent that was hit was my personalization. Now, since I opened it, that's where it went. And inside it, I'm checking if there is a person object that was included in the request envelope. So what I'm going to do is let's actually go back into our CloudWatch and see if we can look at that entire object. So it looks like this is the latest call I made. And I'm going to go here and you can see there's a complete object available here. And there is a user object. This is probably when I did it from the developer console because it didn't know the person. And well, refresh this, see if I have a more latest version of this. There's 0 person here. There we go. So as you can see, it received a person ID, and if it did receive a person ID, it's going to go and execute on this code, which is that it's logging this. It logs the access token. And again, this is something you should probably not do. I'm just doing this because it's for demo purposes only. And this is the greeting that was actually generated. So as you can see, it's a regular SSML, but it has a little bit of magic going on here. I'm using a keyword Alexa name. And what it does is it replaces Alexa name with the name of the person using the person ID. So again, the personalization API does not give you any personally identifiable information, but it does give you this keyword that you can use to make it a bit more personal and call the person by the name. So Alexa name gets replaced with name, which is my name. Okay, sorry, that was a rookie mistake. I still had the mute button off. Okay, so that gets replaced with hi Amit, and that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it goes in and it says hi stranger, which is a behavior we got when I was trying to do this off the test simulator. Okay, so that is skill personalization demo. But one thing I want to point out, like I said earlier, is that you have to go in and enable skill personalization. So you would go into the permission setting for your skill. And again, this was something I cheated and did this beforehand. But you would go in and you would make sure that skill personalization is turned on. If that is off, it does not have the permissions to get the name and other information about the user. Great. So that was skill personalization. You can personalize your experience with voice profiles. Like I said, you need to go in and enable the skill personalization. And then at that point, you can start using the person ID to remember the preferences and differentiate between the household members. And one really cool thing is that if the customer changes the name in their profile in the Alexa app, the name gets automatically updated because you're not storing anything. You're just using Alexa name to reference them, and that just automatically reflects. So this is, again, the JSON that was sent. You would have the user ID. This is, again, user ID is the user ID of the account holder, and person ID is the ID of the person speaking. So all of your requests will always have a user ID. some of them, if it was able to identify who the person is, would also include the person ID. Your experience as you're building the skill experience is you should always make sure that you have an experience for when person ID is available, but also when it is not available or when Alexa is not able to recognize who the person might be. And here is the Node.js SDK. If you want to learn more about that, you can go into the feature demos, which is the GitHub page I pointed to. And you can also learn more about voice profiles by going to alexa.design/voice-profiles. Cool. Okay, let's move on. Number 4. This is also a really cool feature that we recently released. Echo dot with clock is one of these new echo dots, which flashes the time, the current time most of the time, but you as skill developers can use that display. It's a 7-segment alphanumeric display that most of the time will show the clock, but you can also use that to show information that is very specific to the experience that the customer is having right now. So for example, if you have a weather skill, you can say, Alexa, show what's the temperature right now, and it's going to switch over to the current temperature and then return to the clock face when that experience is completed. So the way you would use that is by using the APL, which is Alexa presentation language. There's a new supported interface that's available. And that is alexa.presentation.aplt, which I think stands for APL text. And again, in your request that you will receive, you can see that does the device actually support APLT or not, and if it does, you can program that interface, and if not, you can have your default interface. And that is true for pretty much like if you would normally check if this has a screen or not, and with this one specifically, you can check if it is an echo dot with clock, and if it is, then you can present a different kind of experience. And again, with that, you can learn more about this by clicking on echo.apl, which takes you to this APL reference character displays page, which is the complete tech docs, as you can see. I'm going to move to the next one, which is also APL related. And this one is that we've introduced some new changes to APL version. There's a 1.2 available, and you can keep track of the latest version of APL going to alexa.design/APL latest. And the new things that we've, among other things, the new things are that you can actually start adding shadow effects, and this is available for all APL components. You can also add some noise filters. If you want to generate some noise on your images, you can do that as well using APL 1.2. And things like even within the shadows, you can do shadow color. You can do some offsets with horizontal and vertical. You can do some. You can also set radius for your shadow settings. And all the components now also have new properties for handling the cursor. So when the cursor enters a component, and when the cursor exits a component. So these are some of the new features. You can check more on that by going to alexa.design/APL latest. Okay, I'm going to take a break and look at any questions. Okay, all right. I think Joe and Mark are on it, so I'm gonna keep moving and go to number 6. Well, okay, we're halfway down. Number 5 is what we just did, and number 6 is this is also something that developers have been looking for. So lo and behold, support for additional AWS Lambda regions are now available for Alexa skills. So initially there were very few limited options you had. And what this does is that it can improve latency for your skills dramatically because you're not doing any cross-region calls. You can have Alexa skills and DynamoDB or S3 or any other services from AWS that you're using. You can put them on the same regions, which will improve the performance of your skills dramatically. And you can learn more about that by going into alexa.design/AWS regions. I've included a quick list of allowed AWS Lambda regions for Alexa skills. As you can see, it's a pretty expanded list now, but you can learn more about that by going to that link. So number 6 was there's more support for additional Lambda regions as endpoints for your skills. Now, if you're using Alexa hosted, that does not change, you can obviously use Alexa Hosted, which is powered by AWS Lambda, and that's code available inside your developer console, so you don't even need an AWS account. But eventually, once you grow out and you are trying to use other services, you may want to look at AWS Lambda, which is why this is super important for people who are using that. Okay, number 7 is Utterance Conflict Detection. Now this and the next couple slides are all related to how can you improve the interaction model and how can you improve the experience that your customers are having by just making sure that you don't have any conflicts. How do you make sure that your intents are actually getting mapped to the intent that you think they should be, or and there's a way that you can test those also. So to do this, I am actually going to, so this is how it looks. I included a quick screenshot. What you can do is you can specify, you can check if there is a conflict between custom intents. You can also check if there's conflict between a built-in intent and a custom intent, and multiple custom intents and all of that. But to really test it out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the developer console and I am going to try and create a conflict first, and then we can test it. So let's go into build, and this only has one intent. So you know what, how about we add a cancel utterance to my personalization intent. Now, as you may know, cancel is one of those keywords or one of those utterances that should automatically be handled by the cancel intent, which is one of the built-in intents that Amazon provides. So what I'm doing is I am creating a conflict, and I'm going to save this, and I'm going to build the model. So this may take a minute, and what's going to happen is that in this section right here on the left, it says utterance conflicts. That's where it should pop up. Oh. I'm going to sip on water while we do that. Okay, here we go. So I got a message saying utterance conflicts detected, and I'm going to click on the utterance conflict. Let's X out of these. All right, so it's telling me that there is an utterance conflict for cancel, and it is a conflict between Amazon.cancel intent and my personalization intents. So it's a quick way for me to know that there was a conflict, and I can go in and make sure that I remove the cancel from here and save model. And then once I do a build model again, it's going to come back and the utterance conflict will be resolved. So that is a really good way for you to check if there are any utterance conflicts. Is there any ambiguity between the utterances that you have, and is it getting mapped up to the intent that you think it should be mapped up to? So that is utterance conflicts. All right, so number 7, utterance conflict detection. I think this is super useful. And if you're building a skill right now, I would highly recommend you try this out and let us know what do you think about it. Okay, so the next one is NLU Evaluation Tool. Now, this is also a new tool that is super powerful. You can actually batch test your utterances and then compare them how they're performing against the NLU. So to do that, what you would do is you would create an annotation set. And I'm going to do that now. But annotation set is a set of utterances that you map to an intent. You can map it to a slot name, and you can map it to a slot value. But what it does is you can test if it's actually doing what you expect it to do. So I'm back in my skill now. I'm going to go into, let's click on evaluate model. Now this is utterance. It has two options. One is the utterance profiler and the other one is NLU evaluation. I'm going to play around with the utterance profiler first. So utterance profiler is the way for you to test your utterances. So if I say, who am I? It's going to map to my personalization intent. So if you had another intent and you would just type this in, and if it's not getting mapped to the right one, you know there's a problem and you can go and check that. or like I said earlier, you could also use the utterance conflict to do that. But this new feature that we have now is the NLU evaluations. That's the second feature here. I'm going to click on that, and I am going to create an annotation set. So let's just name it test batch A. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, who am I? And I'm going to say it should map up to my personalization intent. And if it's not, then it should error out. And let's say I'm also going to do what's my name. And I want this also to map up to my personalization intent. And I'm going to save this annotation set. I'm going to make sure my computer is not, my streaming computer is not actually going to sleep. So I'm going to keep turning my mouse. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to click on evaluate model. And you can, if you already have the skill live, you can even run it on different stages, but I have development here, and I'm going to choose test batch A and run an evaluation. So now what it's doing is it's actually using my interaction model and then using this as a test model to see if it is actually performing according to that test plan that I have. So let's give it a few seconds, and it should come back and, oh, it passed. So let's click on this. And so who am I is getting mapped. I wonder if what's my name was already in there. I was expecting this to fail, but as is the case, oh, that's why it's, yeah, okay. So I'm going to do something different because I really want you guys to see this. I thought this was super cool. So I want to make sure that you guys see this too. So I am going to edit this test batch, and instead of saying what's my name, it's passing. Let's see, what else do I have here? I have, do you know my name? Check personalization configuration. Who am I? I'm going to say something random here and go back to evaluate model and click on this. What should I say? Open the can. All right, so that I'm expecting it should map up to my personalization, and that should ideally fail here. So I'm going to save this and evaluate model again and run an evaluation. Damn it, that passed too. Okay, I am really going to go back in here. I wonder why this was passing. Wow, that's really odd. I don't know why that is passing. So let's go back and change this to help. All right, I'm going to try this one more time. I tried this a little while ago, and it was, I swear to God, this was failing. I don't know why it keeps passing. I guess it really wants to keep me happy here. Okay, all right, failed. All right, I don't know if I should actually be this happy about a test failing. Or maybe I should. That's a way to know there's something wrong, right? Okay, so I'm going to click on this. I know there's something wrong, and I can click on, and it comes here, and it says expected was Amazon help, and actual, it went into my personalization intent. Let me get this. So expected, open the can, it was expected to go into my help intent, but it actually went into Amazon. So, okay. So that's where you know that there's a problem, and you can change that and then go back and run the evaluation again. So a couple tools here that you can use to improve your NLU model. The first one is the utterance conflicts. Any conflicts between your intents and in your model will show up here. You can also get to evaluate model, and you have two tools that you can use: the Utterance Profiler, which is a really quick way to test if utterance is actually matching to the intent and if it's getting the slots that you expect, and then NLU Evaluation, where you can set up annotation sets and you can run tests against that. Okay, so there are a couple ways. One is that you can use the developer console like ours, but you can also use the SMAPI NLU Evaluation API to run all of these tests programmatically. So here's the NLU Evaluation Tool API. You can create all of the sets. You can run the tests against that. Let me go here. So here is the CLI. So you can do all of this using the CLI, using the SMAPI API, or you can just go to developer console and do it the way I just showed it to you as well. So it depends on the workflow that you want. If you already have a workflow that you want to include this into, you can do that using the SMAPI API as well. So that was number 8, NLU Evaluation Tool. And let's go to the next one, which is number 9. You can now programmatically retrieve the skill usage data using the Get Metrics API. There's a bunch of metrics your skill gets. I'm going to go into the developer console again and show you. Now, this skill specifically is not going to have any metrics here, but you can go to the analytics page and you can look at the customers, sessions, how many sessions you're getting, what are the utterances people are using, the intents. You can also check the retention metrics as well. Now, all of this data was available to you through the developer console, but now you can use the API, metrics API, to get all of that programmatically. So you can get things like pretty much everything that you can get on the developer console, you can get that using the API metrics. Now that obviously saves you a lot of time. You can increase visibility by building tools on top of that, that specifically match up to the expectations that you have. And to do that, you will just go to the metrics API. You can see that there is an endpoint that's available to you, and you can use the language of your choice. You can use the tools of your choice and use that API to get the metrics. So it takes the skill ID. You can even set the start time and the end times of these queries, which is super helpful if you're trying to check how your skill is doing week over week. And then you can specify the period. So there's a bunch of options that you can do. You can even specify the intents and the locales of the skills. You can start filtering it down really, really minutely. And here are some of the data sets that you can get, from unique customers to utterances, all like there's a bunch of stuff that's available here that you can play around with. So to get more information about that, you can go to alexa.design/API metrics. And then finally, number 10 is the Smart Home Evaluation API. Now, this is an automated test tool that's available for smart home developers. So if you're a device maker who's building lighting and thermostat specific devices, you can now use the Smart Home Evaluation API to run a suite of automated tests. Now, this can obviously shorten the overall skill development time that you have because you're not doing any manual testing. And it can also improve your chances of making sure that the device works with Alexa certified. Now, that is a certification that the smart home devices need to get, and it's available in all locales, and you can use it using the CLI as well. So the regular ASK command line interface now has enabled the smart home evaluation integrated into it. Now, one thing I would note is that this specific API is still in beta, so expect changes. But if that's something that you've been looking for, you can get started with this by clicking on alexa.design/smart home API. So here's the API. And if this is something that you want to play around with, this can dramatically improve the amount of time you actually spend on testing, because this is all automated testing. Okay, so that was number 10, and I am going to, so let's do a quick recap of the new things, and then once this is done, I can actually go back into the chat and see if there's any questions I can answer. But number 1 was that you can now publish Alexa skills in the US, and you can include ISP in skill purchasing into those skills. You can also be eligible for Alexa developer rewards for Spanish skills that are being made available in the US. Number two is you can build premium experiences for kid skills in the US. And number three is the Alexa experience improvement with voice profiles. You can start capturing the voice profile ID, which is called the person ID. It's sent into the request to your skill, and you can improve the customer experience by remembering the settings and preferences. Remember, you can go into Alexa Design/feature demos to get this demo that I used. Number four is that you can use Echo Dot with Clock, and it has a alphanumeric display, and you can use that alphanumeric display to present specific context-specific information for your skill, and it uses the APL-T interface. There are new changes. Number five is there are new changes introduced in APL version 1.2. You can learn all about the latest of APL by going to Alexa.design/APL latest. And then number six was that if you use AWS Lambda as endpoints, there are additional Lambda AWS regions available, so you can improve latency for your skill using the region that is applicable to you. Number seven is that you can use Utterance Conflict Detection to detect any conflicts that may be happening between your intents. You can do that through the developer console. Number eight is the new NLU Evaluation Tool. You can do that using the developer console to evaluate using the annotation sets, but you can also do that programmatically using the NLU Evaluation API. And the number nine is you can programmatically retrieve the metrics for your skill using the Get Metrics API. And then finally, the Smart Home Evaluation API. You can start running automated tests for lighting and thermostat devices using the Smart Home Evaluation API, and that is also available through the command line interface. So you can do that programmatically as well. So that is the list of things that have been introduced in the last few weeks. And as always, you can keep track of all the new features by just going to Alexa.design/features. That is a comprehensive list, chronological list of new things, new API changes to Alexa Skills Kit. So as you can see, it has all of these features, and it also has links to the specific blog, and if they're generally available, or in some cases, if they're available in specific locales or in preview or beta. So this is a really good page to bookmark, and that would be Alexa.design/features. And with that, I am going to look at the chat window now. So, all right. Jomo, I missed one. Amit, do you know if there is a change in session ID if the voice ID changes? That's a really good question. I'm not sure. My guess is that it should not, but I'm purely guessing at this point. Yeah, I'll have to get back on that. I want to note that down. Okay. All right. Moving up. All right, looks like there's some conversation. I'm trying to follow the conversation between Jomo and Void14. Okay, looks like this is a side conversation that's happening. I will let that happen. No JS NPM packages for all the APIs Amit showed today. So most of the features are included as part of the SDK, or there's some sample code available if you go to github.com/Alexa, or actually, it's probably better to follow this link, which is the feature demos. Um, and okay. Lord of, did I answer your question? Okay, great, excellent. Okay, so did I miss that? No, I think okay. Joe already got that. So if there are more questions, I'm happy to answer. In the meantime, I'm just gonna scroll up and see if there's anything specific that happened on the chat while I was speaking. All right, it really looks like Joe and Mark were on. Thank you guys. All right, I'm curious, what is so we covered 10 things, right? What is the thing that you guys are most excited about? I'll start off. I think I'm super excited about voice profiles, and I am super excited about NLU Evaluation Tool. In fact, I'm super excited about number 7 and 8. I think you can use those together to really improve your interaction model. I'm excited about that. Voice profiles and the NLU Evaluation Tool. I'm curious, what are you guys excited about? Lord of Sound says NLU Evaluation API. Hey, that's okay. That's 2 of us. Awesome. Do voice profiles work in connected car? I would believe so. Yeah. So again, behind the scenes, what it's really doing is it's calling the API. So it should not matter what device you're calling from, as long as the voice profile has been set up. So I would think that it should work just fine in a connected car. Lord of Sound, what intent gets fired if you interrupt a prompt using the Alexa wake word? Okay, sorry, I got distracted with the question. Okay, what intent gets fired if you interrupt a prompt using the wake word? So it depends on if you're inside a skill and Alexa is. Let's imagine this. So you open the skill and you're engaging in a dialogue with the skill, and now the skill is speaking, and you interrupt that. And at that point, if you do not say anything, you just interrupted with an Alexa, it's going to try to map it to some kind of intent. And if it's not able to, it's going to throw an error. It's probably going to go into, if it's really not able to map anything, it's going to go into the catch-all. Jomo, keep me honest here. And it's going to look for a response twice. So it's going to go, first it's going to say the response, and then it's going to open up for the reprompt. And if that does not work, the skill is going to just exit out. That's right. Lord of Sound, that's what I meant, the unhandled intent. And again, this may, if it hears something in the background, it may still try to match it to an intent. So it's best to have some kind of like unhandled experience, where anything that your other intents are not handling, you can actually use it as a catch-all intent and come back with a response like, oh, I didn't hear that. Can you say that again? Or try to get them back on track. Use that for sure. The Lord of Sound. Okay, so better to tell the user to say something and train them like a quiet or something that doesn't trigger the Amazon.stop intent. I'm curious. So can you give me a little bit of context into the scenario that you're running into? It looks like you're noticing that users are exiting out of your skill for some reason, right? I'm more curious about what you're expecting them to say and then they're not. Is this part of some kind of dialogue you're having with the skill? Okay, yeah, okay, that's a really good use case. So you have a quiz skill. Some questions are long prompts and they've heard them before, so they want to just barge in and just answer that, right? But sometimes you're noticing that they are barging but not saying anything. Is that right? As long as they're barging and giving you an answer, I'm guessing you can map it to the intent. But it's sometimes they're barging, but either they're not saying anything or you're not able to map it to an intent. In that case, I would say you can have an intent. I see what you're trying to do. You can have an intent that if they say something like Alexa quiet, you can map it to an intent and that can give them a little bit more of response time. But if you say something like a stop, yeah, it's just gonna exit the scale. Yeah, you can try that. I think that's really interesting. You can try to say that if you need more time, you can say, Alexa, give me more time. I need a minute or something like that, or even what you were suggesting, Alexa, quiet, and that can buy them some more time. Yeah, that's right. Barging in should map it, but that's only if I think the answer is mapping to an intent. I think what's happening is that people are saying shut up, they're saying stop, and that's I think that's always going to override any other intents you may have, because that's just going to map it to the stop intent the Amazon.stop intent. Right. So if you can create another intent, and that can have references like give me a minute or stay quiet, and then train your users um, through the skill to say something like that. That if you would like more time, or if you already know the answer, you can barge in at any point and say the answer. But if they still say shut up, I mean that's still gonna map to the stop intent. So I'm not sure. Yeah. Hopefully I answered that for you. Okay. All right. I'm still waiting on everybody's favorite. What's your favorite? Quick. What's your favorite feature? Smart home. All right. I got that. I think that yeah, I figured that was smart home, not smart homey. Home. Uh voice profiles. Voice profiles. Yeah, voice profiles is by far I'm super excited about that. Velcro one of your dots to a Roomba. That would be pretty awesome. Great. Looks like voice profiles is the winner. Great. Uh, I'm totally imagining that happening right now. There is a Velcro. There is a dot that's actually Velcro to a Roomba. That's pretty awesome. Yep, that's right, Lord of Sound. Video or it didn't happen, right? That's the way we operate. All right, guys. All right, this is getting really interesting, guys. Floyd 14, I had my EV3 robot pulling a battery powered dot around behind it. How are you powering these? Is there some kind of battery that you have on these? Clearly, I want to do this. Speaking of which, is anyone actually playing around uh, with the Mindstorms challenge that we have with Alexa? Let me see if I can look that up. That was really cool. I don't know if that is still running. There we go. Yeah, Mindstorm. So, Joe, can you post a link to that, please? Thank you. There's a 100,000 challenge or $100,000 prizes available for Lego Mindstorm's voice challenge. So what you have to do is you have to build a skill or some kind of experience with Alexa around that. And let me see, when is it ending? Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. So there's a best prize, best creation overall. There's top 5 creations. There's a bonus prize, and it'll close on December 31st. All right. I think we all know what we're gonna do over the holidays, right? December 31st, 2019 is the link. All right. So I think in that vein of putting some kind of cool device on top of your EV3s and your other vacuum cleaning devices, I think this is straight up in that vein, and something really, really exciting. Okay. So with that, if there are no other questions, well, you know what? I'm gonna hang out. This is too cool. I want to see what other things you guys are actually putting on top of these devices. So I'll hang out for another 5 minutes and wait for any other questions you guys may have. Jeff Pankenberg is probably working on that in secret. He's currently in Brazil, so I think that is good timing. I think that's what he's doing over there. Speaking at the conference and then working on that stuff in the night. That's Mr. Blankenberg. All right. If there are no other questions, I will take your leave, guys, and I will leave you with this screen, the new stuff that's been launched. Take a screenshot, or hopefully you have the links to all of these. If not, please follow on alexa.design/features. And with that, I will take your leave. Again, my name is Amit Jotwani. I'm Alexa Evangelist, and I will see you guys hopefully soon. And adios.